What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, the man who is always on the road, Tim Legler. Legs, how you doing today?
What's up? How we doing, man? I'm good. You know, I don't know that I necessarily saw such an entertaining night going into the night as we ended up getting last night, because it was all over the place. You had to all the games at the same time. You're watching one and you're going, wait a second. You're looking at box scores like, wait, what's going on in this game? So you got to get caught up later in the night. What an entertaining, just random Sunday night in the NBA schedule. We had some great finishes.
We had a bunch of overtimes and fourth quarter finishes. So sometimes, especially this year, it feels like the Sunday slate hasn't been great. Our Monday show, we've talked about some broad things. But yeah, last night, man, we had a bunch of close ones. And we're going to talk Jazz Bulls went to overtime. The Bulls are starting to slide. Mavs Blazers went to overtime. Mavs got their best win of the season. We'll talk about that. But we're going to start with our FanDuel game of the night. This is always our breakdown. We always key in on one game in particular. We're going to key in on the Rockets beating the Magic last night. And this was a game, Legs, where the Magic played incredibly well, especially right out of the gate. They came out to a huge start. I think it was 25-12. They were locked in. They were playing incredible defense, and they led for almost the entire game, all the way down till the final 3 minutes when the Rockets took the lead. It went back and forth, came down to the wire, but in overtime, it was the Houston Rockets pulling away 117-113. What stood out to you about this game? I thought it was incredibly well played, especially on the defensive end.
Yeah, it was. And you're right about Orlando. They started the game. I mean, they just took it right to Houston on both ends of the floor. Came out with an incredible flow. Wagner got off to a great start early in the game. And then defensively, Houston just had a difficult time penetrating that defense at all. And so you look up, like, man, Orlando's in control. And that lasted most of the game. You kind of felt like the Magic were going to win the game. They just felt like they outplayed Houston. It was going to be their game. But Houston ended up managing the possessions they had to have better than the Rockets. And some of it was just incredible shot making. Kevin Durant and Sengun were the main two guys in that. Amen Thompson was a recipient of a couple of baseline cuts. He got a couple of dunks that were timely. Reed Sheppard made some important free throws. But really, this was about two really important shots off the dribble by Kevin Durant, one at the end of regulation, one at the end of overtime. And then, of course, the sideline out of bounds play that went directly to Sengun in the post to tie the game, to send the game into overtime. Was look, it was great awareness on the part of Houston, but it was also a breakdown by the Magic. You cannot allow a direct entry pass from the sideline near half court to about 5 feet in front of the rim to Sengun with one guy on his back with a second and a half. You can't allow that. That ball has to be inbounded beyond the three-point line if you're the Orlando Magic. Or it's a desperation lob at the rim and four guys jump up and it's knocked away and the game's over. You can't allow a one-on-one seal in the lane in that situation. And it's exactly what they threw it right to Sengun with, I think, 1.4, if I'm not mistaken, something like that.
Yep.
Direct entry pass. He's right point blank in front of the rim, catches it, turns, quick jump hook over Jonathan Isaac before Isaac could even react to it, tied the game, sent it overtime. And then Kevin Durant had the biggest shot overtime late. Well, a pull-up jumper off the dribble.
Well, let's break down this ending because it was kind of wild. The first part of it is Wendell Carter Jr. with 2 minutes and 10 seconds to go, and the Magic are up one. They have, I think, the shot clock's winding down. Amen Thompson is kind of in the worst spot, like 15 feet from the basket on the baseline, and he has to do a turnaround fadeaway jumper just to get the ball up before the shot clock goes. And Wendell Carter Jr. makes the dumbest foul you could possibly imagine, jumping into him, trying to get a block shot. Amen Thompson's not going to hit a fadeaway along the baseline three. And to me, I thought that was the killer possession. They get a free throw out of it. And then you get down to the absolute ending. This should have been the last possession. The Magic have the ball. The shot clock is off. And Desmond Bane goes a little bit too early. And I thought this was a credit to the Houston Rockets because they were pressuring. They kind of like were forcing, the action. And so he goes a little early, gets his shot blocked, and it goes out of bounds on him. So you get Houston ball. They get the ball half court to inbound it with 5.3 seconds left, and they turn it over on the inbound. And they give up an Anthony Black dunk. So it looked like Orlando should have had the last shot. Houston should have had the last shot. Both teams blew it. And then with only 1.4 seconds left, to your point, it was a great, I thought, ATO, great inbounds play. But at the same time, if you're the Magic, you cannot give up. If you're up 2 with 1 second left, the only thing you can't give up is a shot at the rim, a quick shot like that. And Sengun seals really well right under the basket. The play works fantastic, and they give up that easy shot. So what out of all those plays, because I thought this was 3 possessions that should have gone the other way. All 3 of them were mistakes, I thought, to end the game.
Yeah, so let's talk about first. It's tie game. Houston's taking the ball out, sideline out of bounds. You mentioned with 5.3. And Sengun's got the ball out of bounds. And so they're trying to get it in, and there's nothing happening. All of a sudden, Durant then tries to break toward half court, and he slips and falls at exactly the time that Sengun is bringing the ball, like a little bounce pass toward the half court corner where Durant's got his arm out, but he slips and falls. So now it's just a ball that's basically headed toward the Magic's basket. Anthony Black picks it up. Not only does he make the dunk, first of all, I'm like this, go back and watch the tape of Sengun, who threw it away. I've never seen Sengun run harder than that. I mean, the dude is in a full sprint to try to catch Anthony Black to the point where Black dunks it and Sengun fouls him. Yeah. And so now it's game. I mean, Anthony Black gets the dunk. There's 1.7 seconds left, and he's going to the foul line. So, like, you make the free throw, it's game. You're up 3. Yep. Most likely you're going to win the game with 1.5 seconds to go. You're going to have forcing some 3-point shot on the part of the Rockets, and you're probably going to win the game. Black missed the free throw. So that set up the ending, 1.4. They take it right back to the same place out of bounds, but the difference is Sengun's not taking it out. They have 3 guys like together in the lane, and they just sort of ran little weave action in the middle of the lane. And you could tell Jonathan Isaac was not expecting to switch onto Sengun. He was guarding Durant. And I'm certain they did not want him leaving Durant because of his length. They wanted him on 1.5 seconds to go. If Durant catches that ball, you want Isaac on him to get off the ground and contest that. But you could see the little weave they ran. It confused the 3 defenders. And next thing you know, Isaac's like, you could see his head on a swivel, like, oh, I guess I got Sengun. By that point, he was completely pinned on his back. And Jonathan Isaac, as long as he is, he's not strong enough to move Sengun out of there. So Sengun just turns, puts his hands up. Everybody else is spread out to the corners and the 3-point line. So he's literally got a 1-1 with Isaac on his back. And it's about a 30-foot pass, 35-foot pass right to him in the center of the lane. Now, and to his credit, with 1.4, your back is to the basket when you catch the ball. You don't have time to put it down. You got to catch it and turn and go. And it's exactly what he did. He caught it, turned, shot a jump hook. Jonathan Isaac, I don't think he even got off the ground. Like it happened so quickly. Isaac didn't even react to it. Sengun makes the little shot with 2/10 left. And now we go overtime. Set up, more heroics by Kevin Durant late. But the 3 he hit, by the way, in regulation, we got to talk about to tie the game at 100. Right before that sequence we just talked about with the turnover that led to the Anthony Black dunk, Kevin Durant had a one-on-one Carter, and it was nasty. He went left to right and then dragged it back right to left, and he stepped back like 8 feet to shoot that 3, knocks it down, ties the game. reminds everybody in Houston, like this is exactly what this team didn't have last year, like an answer in that situation. They've got an answer now. And Durant hit that one, and then he hit another one in overtime after Sengun had tied at the end of regulation.
I thought that, well, first of all, to your point on Sengun, one of the things that I think is different about him this year, he's always been strong. I think he's getting stronger and he's using his size and physicality. I mean, we really saw this against Wemby, but we saw it last night, not just on that last play, but on several plays where he just knows how to use his body to just get to the place he needs to without fouling, without just going through a guy, just use his leverage to get to his spots. And I thought it really stood out last night. He didn't shoot the ball well. At one point, I think he missed like 8 in a row, but he made some big time shots down the stretch, and he was really physical. But the two-man game between Sengun and Durant, both of those guys made shots, and they both played off of each other, I thought, really well. There, that was one of my questions is, does things tilt too far in KD's direction or in Sengun's direction? But I thought both of those guys played off of each other, throwing into the post, kicking it out, and then just knowing when it was the other guy's turn to kind of go at it, including the point you're talking about where Kevin Durant got, I can't remember what defender it was, got him on skates and got to his three-point shot.
Yeah, it was Carter. And you're right about the balance late, because I thought the same thing. That's the one thing I feared for Sengun was, is this going to be so Kevin Durant centric late? That's not the answer either. Yeah, it's great to have this guy. He's an all-time great finisher, one of the most unstoppable offensive forces because of his handle shooting combination, but you can't just put it in his hands all the time. Late 30s, pushing 40 in a couple of years. Like, you can't just, that's not the answer either. So are they going to have balance at the end of the game? And I thought they did. Some it was initiated with Durant. Some positions it was initiated with Sengun. And they kind of read off of who had the more favorable matchup at the start of the possession. And I thought their spacing off of it was pretty good. Now, look, this is still a team that is, by NBA standards, anemic three-point shooting team. And you do worry about that some nights. As great as their defense is, as great as their offensive rebounding is, you've got these two incredible forces in Durant and Sengun. Some nights, man, you're going to make more threes. They only 20 in an overtime game. 20.
That's crazy.
I mean, think about that. That's like a quarter and a half for like the Cavs or the Celtics or some of these teams that shoot a ton of threes. They took 20 in an overtime game. They made 8. So I still think like the spacing off of it could be better. But I thought the way that they attacked the Magic in those key possessions and where they initiated it, there was good balance to keep the Magic sort of off balance of where it was going to go first. If you get a dose of the same guy all the time, it's got to be initiated through this guy. Defenses can really adjust to that, and it's going to make your life very difficult. It's going to be difficult to get high quality shots. I thought Houston did a really nice job of those two guys sharing the load late. And you also had that other component. Amen Thompson had 2 different baseline cut dunks because now all the attention is on these two guys, and he's just back there lurking along the baseline. Now, I don't think he got to show much in this game offensively, and I think when it's like he's too much just like standing around waiting to slash. I liked him at the end of last year when the ball was in his hands a little bit more. So I do think there are times when Amen Thompson just is relegated to just this weak side slasher, and I think he's better than that off the. And this was more about Durant and Sengun the entire time, pretty much closing this game out. So let's see if Houston is still tweaking things and finding a way that he can also have a little bit more involvement rather than just standing there waiting to get some sort of a cut so he can get an opportunity.
Well, I thought coming into the year, we were wondering about what like the pecking order was going to be on Houston. Amen Thompson is a player I really love, but Sengun has been so good out of the gate that to me, it's really Sengun and Kevin Durant. And then Amen Thompson offensively at least kind of fills in around him. But Sengun has been so confident and so aggressive that it's been fun to watch. And again, like I said, using his size just so perfectly, he's having a really, really great start to the year. If we could keep going, the other guy that I think is really fascinating for them, and he might be the most interesting X factor in the Western Conference this year, is Reed Sheppard, because this guy's game, he had his strengths and weaknesses. You worry about some of the different things, maybe defensively or just athletically. Where does he fit in? Can he run the point guard? When that guy gets going, he is such a smooth player and really fun to watch. Like if this guy really continues to hit the way he's been looking over these last, this season so far, he's going to be one of the most entertaining players. And he gives the Rockets the dynamic that they desperately need. This like, he's quicker than you think off the dribble. He had a play where you try to pressure him at half court and overwhelm him athletically. Orlando has some great rangy defenders. He has a burst and ability to get to the basket off of 2 dribbles from half court or 3 dribbles and just get to the basket and finish that he did last night. And then his jump shot is just so beautiful to watch when he has it going. He had a step back. Talk about Kevin Durant's step back. Kevin Durant has those long legs. Reed Sheppard had one in the first half that was just like it, where he created separation and got into his jumper. And it was a hard step back into a perfectly balanced shot, which is really hard to do. I just like his game. He's so interesting. And to me, he's such a major X factor for them.
Totally agree. And here's what I'm seeing with Reed Sheppard. He's starting to elicit the confidence of his stars. Like that three you're talking about, that step back was right in front of the Houston's bench. I'm fascinated by Kevin Durant's reaction on that. Like he stood up, he turned and he looked at like the coaching staff, like, man, this dude is a bad boy out here. That's kind of the look he had. And you could see the smirk on Reed Sheppard's face when he ran back on defense. Like he's kind of smiling. He's gaining his confidence. It's happening right in front of our eyes. He's had 7 games this year already with 5 or more made field goals. He had 5 all of last season.
Man, that's a great stat.
That's what we're talking about. But the reason you make 5 baskets in a night, you've had a major contribution in the game offensively, because a couple of those are probably going to be threes. Maybe you got to the line a couple times. Most likely, if you make 5 field goals, like you're probably on your way to like a 15-point night. You know, he had 5 games the entire season where he made 5 field goals. And I bet if I went back and looked at those games, how many of those games might have been even like blowouts, guys didn't play. Like you got your main guys out there and you're doing this in important moments. He's done it 7 times this year already. There's no comparison with where Reed Sheppard is right now and where he was at the end of last season. And that is a major, major bonus. Remember, we had this conversation before the season started out, and we said the key is going to be Reed Sheppard in terms of what Houston does, because they didn't get Kevin Durant some long-term timeline while they wait on Fred VanVleet or some other point guard. If you win now, it's win now. So we were like, both of us, and I said it, and I know you agreed, we got to see what happens with Reed Sheppard, because that could determine if they need to feel like they got to go get more at that spot. Well, he's calming everybody down now because he's on the court, first of all, in winning time. They got him out there at the end of games. They never contemplated having him on the floor at the end of games last year. He's out there at the end of games. His confidence is growing nightly. And to get the confidence of his teammates, which is really cool to watch. So it looks like Reed Sheppard's off and running now, and we'll just see now, how this year goes. But I have to have a pretty good feeling. What you're seeing now is probably what you're going to see all season long, maybe even more so the second half of the year when he gets games under his belt.
The last thing I have about the Houston Rockets is their double big lineup is just so fascinating to me. They run it like a sledgehammer lineup. They run it quite a bit. And what do you do if you don't have the bodies to match up with it? They've perfected their defense in the way that they're going to play it. Both guys have been very good at rotating and different things. But offensively, just imagine, Legs, you draw the Steven Adams assignment in that lineup, because all Adams is going to do, and he times it perfectly, is he goes down and plays the dunker, and he has an elite sense of when the shot is going up, because as soon as he senses the shot is going up, he is doing everything he can to push you under the basket or get in front of you and box you out and just go for that offensive rebound. And how many teams have a body that can handle him? Almost nobody. He had 8 offensive rebounds. Sengun had 8 offensive rebounds. They had him in the clutch, that huge play where I think Sengun and Adams combined for like 4 offensive rebounds in a row. Sengun goes behind the back for Adams to get a layup out of it. It's just, you either can handle it or you can't. And if you're the other team and you draw that Adams assignment, you're in for a long night.
Well, first, can I talk about that play you're referencing right now? Because when it happened, I had to go back and watch it again this morning because they showed a couple last night, but I wanted to see again the context live. So you're talking about a situation where these two guys are playing volleyball in the offensive glass, and Sengun had like 3 chances, can't get it to go, can't get it to go, can't get it to go. He finally gets another offensive rebound. There's like 4 guys literally touching each other in the paint.
Yeah.
And he decides at that moment, he's going to throw a behind the back wraparound pass. Steven Adams was no more than 5 feet away from him. And he went, and it wasn't like accidental. He goes behind his back in the lane in that situation at a critical time in the game. You talk about a dude with just extreme confidence, man. And Adams, to his credit, was aware. Most big guys wouldn't even have seen that coming. It would have hit off their shin and gone out of bounds. He was ready for it, caught it. And so you're right, he had 19 offensive rebounds in this game. I remember last show we did, I don't remember who the opponent was, but we talked about their game, most recent game before that show. They had as many offensive rebounds as their opponent had defensive rebounds in a game. You're talking about a 50-50 proposition when it comes off the glass, when you're trying to secure a defensive rebound. You have no chance to win games. That's a miracle. Orlando's in a game in which Houston does that to them on the offensive glass because it's just so hard to overcome that. It's a major problem, Adam. It's a major problem for anybody playing them. How do you have enough size and athleticism on the court to finish off defensive possessions by securing the rebound? Because without it, it completely demoralizes your team. It gasses your defense to have play multiple possessions, that many trips where you're playing defense for 30 to 40 seconds. It's just so incredibly difficult to overcome. Major factor. Rare that I've seen a team that rebound the ball this well off their own offensive glass. That was such a major factor in determining outcomes of games because they do have some issues with their shooting.
Well, the thing about that lineup, it probably is going to have a little bit of issues with shooting. They're almost trading a little bit of spacing for being able to play inside because they like to go to it with Amen Thompson, who, by the way, also can offensive rebound. And he's also a problem athletically that you're going to have to match up with. Then you have Jabari Smith and Kevin Durant, obviously two great shooters, but that lineup is enormous, legs. Kevin Durant, Jabari Smith, Amen Thompson, and your two centers. They overwhelm you. I think the way it works defensively is you are going to be a little slow with Sengun and Adams, although those guys work around the perimeter. Teams try to stretch them out, but they work. But when you have three guys with that wingspan out on the perimeter helping you out, there's no room to drive. So they're not going to get their own three a ton in that lineup, but they're also going to take away your threes. So I'd look at that and I keep thinking about, they have perfected it so much. How do you beat that lineup? I don't know that you're going to match it with size because they're so good at what they do on the offensive rebound. Even that at best is going to be a draw. And then can you shoot on the perimeter when you're going up against those three guys? I just think it's a really unique lineup that might determine the playoffs this year, quite frankly, because of how unique it is and how elite they are at the thing they're trying to do, which is grab the offensive boards.
Yeah. First, real quick, and I noticed people comment in the chat. If there's an issue with my mic, I apologize. Like as James just said, I'm at the mercy of Wi-Fi and hotel rooms sometimes, man. Yeah. It is what it is. Not much I can do about it. Doing the best we can. To your point about Houston, here's where I do think it could be vulnerable. You run into a team that can space them out and force two bigs to chase and not get there in time. Okay. But the problem is most teams that have that ability are then completely out on the other end of the floor, and you're still susceptible to the offensive rebounding. So what you have to, certain nights though, they're going to lose that battle. Like the ball's not going to bounce their way on the offensive glass to where they're punishing a team the way they did last week. Okay. And on the other end, now that you got Steven Adams and Sengun out there trying to cover ground to the 3-point line against a team that's got 4 legitimate 3-point shooters. There are teams like that, but they're going to say, look, we're going to roll the dice. We're going to roll the dice that there aren't enough nights to where we lose that battle and we change our thinking. We're gonna be the beneficiary in this situation because we believe most teams aren't going to be good enough or have the personnel packages to put on the floor that can show that well that we can't catch up to it and have the ability to keep us off the glass. We think that, and we're not going to be a prisoner of the moment where a team makes 4 or 5 threes in a period of time against that double big lineup, and you go, okay, we got to get Steven out off the floor, Sengun out of the game, whatever it may be, and go with one big. They're going to not be prisoner of the moment with that. It's about percentages, and they believe most nights, most of the game, there won't be enough teams that have the personnel package at off. Hurt them from the 3 and also be able to protect their own glass on the other end of the floor. I don't know that there are enough teams to do that. So Houston's going to continue to do what's working for them. But this offensive rebounding thing it's got to give coaches playing them migraines, because there's nothing more frustrating than making teams miss their first shot and you can't secure a defensive rebound. It's just so gut-wrenching and demoralizing. It also
Hopeless, yeah.
makes it very, you know what else, Adam? It makes it difficult to run because now you're committing so many guys into the lane because you get this gang defensive rebounding mentality.
Yeah.
Like, we got to do this collectively. Guards have to pinch down. Bigs have to be down. So now you can't run as well because nobody's from the three-point line and taking off. Everybody's in the paint defensively because it's all hands on deck against this team to rebound. So it gives coaches migraines playing this team. I'm telling you, it's a nightmare.
Well, one of the other things Houston does is they overwhelm teams athletically, but they weren't able to do that to the Orlando Magic because the Magic have something similar. They have a very long, rangy, competitive, athletic lineup. And I was actually very impressed with the Magic in defeat last night. I mean, they kind of blew it at the end, but they had some good timely shot making from guys I didn't expect to shoot as well as they did, including my guy, Anthony Black, who I thought was fantastic last night. And he is an X factor for them, although albeit one I don't necessarily think he'll be able to play that way with any regularity. He's a guy, I love his defense. I love his length. He gets to the basket. He finished really well through contact, but I just don't trust his jump shot to fall at any consistent rate. But last night I was impressed athletically with them. Tristan da Silva made some incredible plays. You got Wagner, Anthony Black, Jonathan Isaac obviously has length, Goga Batazde. They just have a lot of guys defensively, and I thought that they weren't giving out, other than the offensive rebounds, they weren't giving anything easy to Houston all night.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up. I'm glad you used the word impress Orlando in the same sentence, Adam, because I know how you feel about this team. I know how you feel about their star player, Paolo Banchero. You're on record. Okay, you're not a fan. I understand.
Man.
Oh, hey, I'm just
Magic fans let me know. Trust me, they let me know.
Oh, I know that. Trust me. And Miami fans are on me on a daily because I called them boring at the start of the year. And I was wrong. And I admit that I was wrong. They're not boring. They're fun. But I didn't see this coming going into the season. And that's why Eric Spoelstra is a great coach. He adjusted his style to the personnel, and now they're fast and fun. It's great. And I admitted it. So Heat fans, lay off. Magic fans, you can still keep coming at this guy because he still doesn't seem like he wants to give him enough credit. He said he was impressed last night.
They've been on a roll lately. They've been on a roll.
I'm about to ask you, have you changed your opinion a little bit? They've won 6 out of 9. Now, if you look at their schedule, they have what I would call, I guess, they've got four good wins. Miami opening night. Miami's a pretty tough team to play against, so that was a high-scoring game. Good win. At Charlotte, nothing special about that. At Washington, nothing special about that. Boston, at home, that's a good win. They're not a great team anymore right now, but that's still a good win. Portland at home is a really good win. At New York, really good win. Brooklyn at home, no big deal. So they've had a mixed bag. They've beaten some teams they absolutely have to beat, but they've also had some quality wins, and they've won 6 out of 9 now after a really slow start. They should have won the game last night. Let's call it what it is. You got to win that game. Either Anthony Black makes that free throw, and now you're up 3 defending the 3-point line with a second and a half to go. You're going to win the game, or you don't allow Sengun to get a direct entry pass right in front of the rim, to lay that ball in. Either way, they should have won that game, and I'm sure they're kicking themselves today because it's not often you're going to get a team as good as Houston where you got them in your hand and you let it go. But look, the bottom line is this: they've turned a corner. They're playing much better, and a part of that, Desmond Bane is starting to look like himself. He was not himself at the start of the season. He's starting to find his rhythm and aggressiveness, and it's tough fitting in with a new team, but he's starting to get there as well. So I still think Orlando's going to be an important factor in the East.
Well, I did too, and I have been playing better, and I have been impressed with them. Even Paolo Banchero, before he went out, I thought was playing more the way I'm hoping he plays, fitting into their team and what they have going on. So yes, and here's the thing, Legs, I actually love the Magic. This is the thing about it is they are coming into the year, they were my East Coast team. And they have a lot of guys, Franz Wagner, Tristan Da Silva, and Anthony Black are all guys I've kind of circled as my guys over the years. So I like them a lot. You mentioned Desmond Bane, still playing chippy legs. We talked about this 2 weeks ago when we talked about the team that Bane sure seems to be in a lot of skirmishes to start the year. Is it frustration, whatever? They've been playing better. And yet here he is. First few minutes of the game, he finds himself in a skirmish later in the game. And now this one wasn't his fault. He gets tripped up. I can't remember who it was, a Ben Thompson or somebody, maybe Reed. Actually, it was Reed Sheppard, I believe, like trips him up on the break. But I thought it was noteworthy, at least, that we start this game with him getting into a little altercation with a player once again.
Yeah, who was that? He basically just threw a guy to the ground that was trying to set a screen, and he was defending screen. Do you remember who it was?
Was it Jabari? I can't.
And then he stood over him and just stared at him and was nodding his head like, "Let's go." He looked over at the Houston bench, like, "Let's go, game on." Everybody's like, "Wait, dude, it's like 8-6. Like, what's the problem?" You know what I mean? It's like, do you remember there was a stretch at one point, like, was literally getting into fights, lining up for the jump ball at the start of the game. And I'm just like, man, Russell Westbrook. He went through a period of time. You went through a period of time where, like, it literally the ball's about to go up in the air to start the game ready in an altercation. I'm just like, man, he showed up at the arena so hot tonight. And he ran hot anyway. But you're right. Desmond Bane, he's chippy. It's okay, though. It's okay. It fits the Magic's defensive mentality. So
I agree.
We're good. I don't mind it. But he to impose himself offensively. This is a really good offensive player. He's not just a catch and shoot guy. They needed desperately more three-pointers made and attempted. He checks that box right away. But more importantly, he's going to be a guy that he can create offense. I mean, he had numbers assist game last year for Memphis. He knows how to find guys off of ball screen offense. So it's good to see him. He didn't have a great shooting night last night, but it's good to see him starting to find his rhythm and confidence. Now they got to figure it out once Banchero's out there too. He, Wagner, and Banchero, all three of those guys, you got to be able to play well in the same night offensively. They haven't done a lot of that yet this year, but I still think somebody just said, are they top 6 in the East? When it's all said and done, I do think they are.
I do too. And here's the thing, man. Anthony Black, to me, would be such a great player. Not a good one, a great one, if he could shoot the ball at all. But he can't. And I don't really have any faith in it. But it really is like the damning trait for him because he has incredible length. I love his defense. He had a block, a one-on-one block in this game that was so impressive. I think it was on Jabari Smith or Men Thompson, somebody with length. And he just did a great job of staying in front, elevated to block the shot at the rim that only a handful of players can make that. You know, you could stick with him, challenge, whatever, but to block it the way he did, he has a unique ability to make defensive plays like that. I like him when he can get downhill, but his shot is just such a killer. And it's for a team that desperately needs the three-point shot. They need somebody to be able to make threes and find configurations. They have so many good ball handlers and initiators and guys who know how to play the right way, but not enough guys that can make shots. Anthony Black desperately needs to be that for him. I just have no faith in it.
No, I know. Could you imagine if he even just could get like closer to what Da Silva looks like when he shoots the ball? But he's still getting 26 minutes a night, and you know that like he's not really a threat from out there. And he still gets 26 minutes a night because he can defend the way that you said. He's big. He can see the floor. He can get the ball from one side of the floor to the other because he's got great size. He's pretty smart. He just can't shoot. And I don't know, man. It's an individual thing. I don't think that I've come to believe over the years more and more there is an innate part of shooting a basketball you're either born with, or you have, or you don't, in terms of adjusting touch and depth perception and being able to get your body to regulate distances. You know what I mean? It's not just repetitions. Obviously, repetitions help guys, but I do think there's internally that some guys just never get in terms of being able to regulate quickly on the fly in a game with very little time to think about it and get your body to adjust to whatever distance you're shooting the ball from so that your arc is proper on every distance. They just struggle with it their entire careers. He's really young. I don't know if I'm describing that's how it's going to be for him, but at the same time, what year is this for Anthony Black? I mean, it's his third season.
Third year, yeah.
Only 21, but the guy's got 160 games under his belt. 160 games, 1, 2, 3 off seasons, including the one when he got drafted, to get better at this. And it's not really 39 his rookie year from the three, 31 last year, 30 this year. So it's actually regressing. So man, I hope he can, because I agree with you. I really like so many things about his game, but it's tough when you're a 9 from the 3-point line in this game that it's spaced out.
Do you have any other thoughts on the Orlando Magic or the Houston Rockets?
Well, no, I just think that Houston is the Reed Sheppard is huge. The way that Durant and Sengun are playing together and sharing the load is big. Those were two questions I had about this team going in. How are they going to share the load late in games with those two guys and make it's balanced, make it more difficult for defenses? They're doing that. And then the Reed Sheppard component, and he looked a little shaky in the preseason. And in beginning of the year, I just wasn't sure. It's all happening for him, and I'm really happy for him because I like the way he plays. He's really, really smart. He's competitive, and you can just see the trust building. And Ime Udoka has more and more confidence in him every night.
I strongly agree. Let's take a break. On the other side, this was the first of 3 overtime games we're breaking down. On the other side, we'll go a little bit quicker and talk about just the fourth quarter and overtime of 2 very fantastic finishes from last night in the NBA. But first, that moment, the one when you realize you left your favorite sunglasses at the beach, on the roof of your car, or at a gas station 3 states away. We've all been there. I've been there too. But then you find Shady Rays. They completely changed the game. They've got sunglasses that are made for real life. They're seriously good-looking, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive. And here's the wild part. If you lose or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements. So now you can actually wear your sunglasses without fear. On hikes, at concerts, on the boat, wherever, Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use the code AC35 for 35% off of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Also want to tell you about FanDuel. NBA is in swing. FanDuel is your home for live betting. So even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join because FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com/AllNBA. Make sure it's that one, FanDuel.com/AllNBA, and sign up today. Play your game with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 or older and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. All right, back here, segment 2 of the All NBA show. If you're enjoying the show, you don't mind, do us a favor, throw us a like, make sure you're subscribed, and best of all, share the show on social media. Let people know you really enjoy it. Help us grow this audience. Last night, another overtime game. The Jazz get the win, 150-147 over the Chicago Bulls. That hot start for the Chicago Bulls is now in the distant rearview mirror as they have hit a little struggle bump here. They did get Kobe White back. He played a big role, 27 points in 30 minutes last night. But it was the Utah Jazz who got the victory behind Lauri Markkanen's 47 points. What stood out to you about the end of this game, Legs?
Well, it's interesting because there were so many plays. I can't even remember them all that took place at the end of regulation and both overtimes that were significant, that if they go differently, the game is determined differently. But let's start with the end of, I believe it was regulation. No, maybe it was the end of the first overtime. End of the first overtime. Kobe White, by the way, his first game of the year, and that's tough. People don't realize. I know that when you get back, one of your best players, you automatically think that's great. We got him back. And you're right. It is long-term, but I'm just talking about that first 4 or 5 games, incorporating a high shot volume guy in the way they've been playing. It's not necessarily easy. So give Coby White credit because he took a lot of shots. He blended in pretty well though. And he had a very good night considering he hasn't played yet. But the play at the end of overtime where they're down 2 and he turns the corner on Markkanen and drives the ball to the rim and flat out Markkanen just shoves him in the back with his left arm as he's going to release the ball. It's a little like runner, and it took a weird angle. It actually looked like it hit like almost the bottom of the rim on the way up and still spun in the basket. Should have been an and one with 0.2 of a second left. The game should be over right there. Coby White makes the free throw. It's game over, Chicago. They didn't call it. And I don't have a problem necessarily with swallowing a whistle in that situation a little bit. So I'm not complaining about that. I don't care. But he did get fouled. Ball goes in, tie game. Now we go to a second overtime, and there was some more drama at the end of that one. But let's start there, I guess. Like Coby White's fit, he gave them a big infusion of offense in this game. Giddey was spectacular again. But Coby White really could have ended matters right there if he gets that whistle at him.
You're 100% right. And also Josh Giddey, to your point, another triple dozen, 26 points, 13 rebounds, 13 assists, not just the triple double, but the triple dozen. He's one of a handful of guys that they seem to, when they get triple doubles, they're the big ones. They're not 10, they're 11s, 12s, 13s. But yes, and then now the question becomes, what do they look like with Coby White? Because they've established this identity, without him in the early go, that really works, and the ball pops and they do all these different things. Coby White obviously fits into that. He was part of their run at the end of the year. But what did you see from this game that kind of gave you a hint of what it's going to look like with Coby White?
Well, the thing that was good in this game was Coby White played 27 minutes, took 14 shots. He also took 14 free throws. He was 14 for 14 from the line in 27 minutes pretty crazy. 30 minutes. In his first game back, 30 minutes, he got to the line 14 times. So, and should have been 15, like I just described, to win the game, really. The good thing for me was that here's Coby White now reinserting himself back into the mix with, 30 minutes. And yet it didn't seem to affect how much Josh Giddey had the ball, how much Josh Giddey was sort of in control, because I think they're better that way. Coby White can be an explosive scorer. But I think this team is going to be better off the more the ball is in Josh Giddey's hands, just because of the decisions he makes, how quickly he makes those decisions. And it seemed like it wasn't like, all of a sudden now Coby White's out there. Josh Giddey's importance or in playmaking or controlling the offense, was kind of pushed to the side. They were able to do both. And Coby White showed you, listen, the guy can flat out score. So, every team needs guys like that back in the lineup. So I thought the blend in the mix between those two guys was important. And most importantly, Josh Giddey, who's having an all-star year, continued to do that, even though Coby White was out there with him for those minutes.
Hopefully Chicago stabilizes here, because they had that phenomenal start, and obviously they now have lost 5 in a row, including, a loss to the Jazz is not a good one. And now they go into Denver on the second night of a back-to-back. They play tonight at altitude in Denver. That Jazz-Denver back-to-back is probably the toughest in the league. And then they go to Portland to finish out a 4-game road trip. So things do not necessarily get easier for them, and they're just on a tough run. But they were such a great story out of the gate. You hate to see it all go away this quickly. On the other side, the Utah Jazz are an interesting bad team to me. They're 5-8, not as bad as we thought, Legs. I mean, Utah Jazz, we thought were going to be the bottom of the Western Conference. 5-8 isn't too bad, and they have so many guys. They have so many guys. Who stood out to you, especially of their other guys? I mean, Lauri Markkanen stood out, yes. Who else stood out of the young guys in that stretch that we watched?
Get to Markkanen in a second. So first we have to start off by talking about Keyonte George. Keyonte George last year, for a second-year player last year, put up pretty decent numbers on a really bad team. So you don't know what the impact's going to be. He's not a great shooter. He's very streaky. And that streak typically runs more on the cold side than the hot side, particularly with the deep shooting, but he's very talented. He drove, I think, Will Hardy nuts a little bit last year, to the point where, there were opportunities in games. Will Hardy would go in a different direction some nights because I don't think he thought that he was processing the game the way that he should. And Will Hardy being a really cerebral guy, he valued that even on a team that was bad, that wasn't trying to win a lot of games. He was looking at player development. I think he was frustrated with Keyonte George. Fast forward to this year. Now he's a full-time starter. Last year he started about half the time. Now he is their starter. And he's a big-time talent. And he showed you last night. I mean, the game-winning shot that he hit late in the clock, a dribble handoff right in front of their bench from about 28 feet. He didn't really have a lot of time to do anything else because the clock was winding down. But he came off that dribble handoff, man, and he didn't take a dribble. He just planted both feet and rose up and knocked down a three-pointer from that distance to win the game and had a big scoring night overall. So the talent is there. The confidence level is there. The decision-making at times is questionable. And then just the shooting. He's averaging 22 points a game, and yet he's only shooting 27% from the three-point line, and he takes 6.5 a night. So can that improve? Can the volume of the threes come down a little bit until it improves? Be more efficient. But there's no denying, Adam, he's got massive talent. And some nights that's going to surface when you need it, like it did last night. Some nights the shot selection and a little bit of being out of control or taking shots that aren't really high percentage shots for him are going to cost them too. So he has moved it forward. The guy's a third-year player, averaging 22 points a game. The decision-making and the shooting now have to continue to improve, but at least he's earned this right to be a full-time starter now for Will Hardy, and he came through with the biggest shot of the night last night, the game winner.
What of Lauri Markkanen? I know you wanted to put a pin in that one, but this guy is just so freaking good, man. I mean, I hate that we always, every time we mention him, we just talk about how weird it is that his career is on these teams that are not really in contention, but he is, to me, one of the toughest matchups in the entire NBA. Just because of how many different things he can do and how tall he is.
He's an impossible matchup in so many ways because he's athletic and can run the floor as a 7-foot player. So he's good in transition, but he gets matchups in the half court. Typically, a lot of times finds himself with smaller guys on him, and he could just shoot over the top of them anytime he wants. He's got a really well-rounded offensive game. He can put it down on the floor. He gets to the line. He's had, I believe, let me count them up here. He's had now four 40-point games and a 50-point game. And last night, just short of a 50-point game. Over
That's
30
crazy.
points a game over the season. I mean, what else can you say? The guy's he's still only 28 years old. It feels like he's been around forever. He is a matchup problem no matter who plays him, because very rarely do you have the combination of personnel with that kind of length and mobility to guard him. So he can, at the end of the day, with that stroke, he can just shoot over the top, and that's the final answer against whatever even good defense that's played against him. He's a really, really good player, man. A special, very talented offensive player. Utah's much more competitive team this year. They're now trying to win those close games more so than they were a year ago, when I don't think it mattered to them at all. So that makes what he's doing a little bit more relevant.
Well, let's go to our other game then. That went to overtime last night, and that one is the Trailblazers and Mavericks. The Mavericks get the win on this one. The Trailblazers a bit of a confusing team, 6-7. They have some of the best wins in the Western Conference this season, but then some ugly losses. But last night, the Mavericks were able to pull out the win, 138-133. They desperately needed a feel-good moment, and they got it last night, Legs.
They did, and they got a great performance last night out of Cooper Flagg too, and not just like the numbers and the efficiency, which were both there. 21 points, 9 for 16. He hasn't had a lot of nights like that. But more importantly for me, it was his fingerprints were all over determining this game with his putting the ball in his hands, and they love to get it in his hands with a 1-4 flat set and let him go, because right now, what's going to happen for a young player, like he's a forward with a nice handle, right? We talked all about the point guard responsibilities, and it's a lot on his plate. And some nights it's going to lead to turnovers or whatever. But when you give him one-on-one with a 1-4 flat, where he doesn't have as much traffic in his lap, they did that repeatedly last night, late in the game. He can get where he needs to against most guys guarding him without worrying about that second defender coming over that can lead to some turnovers. He got an opportunity last night, and he got where he wanted to go. And he played like big, strong, aggressive basketball in those situations. He didn't settle for lean back, step back threes like you'll see a lot of ISO players do in certain moments. He didn't do that. He's a guy that, in fact, Denny Advia did it in this game. Just a terrible possession at the end of regulation where he just lets all the time run off and then takes a step back three going to his right from 30 feet, shoots an air ball. And that's how they go to overtime. So you're looking at now Cooper Flagg. He's going to get the shot he wants in those situations. He's tough and competitive. And last night I thought was one of his best all-around games because offensively he looked like he belonged late in the game with the ball in his hands to determine matters. So he had a big night.
And no turnovers from him. And that's a Portland team that is tough to not turn the ball over against. So that's part of his development there. What else stood out to you about this one on either side?
Well, I think that PJ Washington gave them a huge infusion last night, and they're a different team when PJ Washington can score the ball. And it's not going to be all the time because he's not that kind of player. He doesn't really put it down a whole lot. But they desperately need, and this is a team that we know the offensive struggles are real. You don't have AD, you don't have Kyrie, the last rated offensive team in the league. You got a rookie that's 18 years old, the youngest player in the league is trying to solve things for you, like offensively. That's a formula for disaster. So PJ Washington to me is a pendulum player for their team. And last night, 16 shots. He got hot from the three, gave him 21 points. It might not be him every night. It's got to be somebody, but I think he's a likely candidate because he has had stretches in his career where he's gone 10 games and averaged 18, 20 points. He can put together those streaks. They need more of that from him here early in the year while they're waiting to get Anthony Davis back.
Well, he hit those massive shots in the fourth, which were a really big part of it. Of what we're talking about here late, not just Cooper Flagg, but it was big for him as well. On the other side, it was a Shaedon Sharpe game. He goes for 36, 4, and 6, and he had 16 points in the fourth quarter of overtime. What stood out to you about his game?
Man, I'm falling in love with his game. You look at him, you look at Jalen Johnson, you look at these two young, incredibly explosive forwards, Johnson in Atlanta, Shaedon Sharpe here in Portland, and there's a lot of similarities there, man. This guy has incredible talent. And he's so young. Like sometimes you forget these guys 22 years old. And early on, you'd only know about him because you happen to be watching Sports Center and catch some highlights. And this dude did the best dunk of the night. That was happening to him a lot. So you kind of, Shaedon Sharpe, like the name became something you knew about, even if you weren't watching their games. Now you want to watch their games to watch him play because he's capable every night of being not only that entertaining and explosive athletically, but now it's happening for him as an all-around scorer. And he's put up monster rebounding number games too at times. But 26 points a night, Adam, in 29 minutes in this month. 26 points a night in the month of November in only 29 minutes. So he's basically a point a minute during this stretch right now, and he was great again last night. He's a guy now that I want to watch. So if Portland's playing, they're fun to watch in general. I especially want to watch him play.
They've had a tough schedule. I mean, some of their losses here, they've only won one of their last 4 games, but they lost at Miami, at Orlando, understandable, beat New Orleans, at Houston. Last night's the tough one at Dallas. Because outside of that one, you could say, okay, it's tough. Portland losing to teams that you figure that's the class they're in. They're going to lose some of those. But losing to Dallas is a killer, and now they're 6-7, below 500. And in this competitive West, losses like that just seem to be such a killer. Any final thoughts on this game, Legs? I know you're on the road and got to get going, but any final thoughts on this one?
No, I think this was a good sign for Dallas. This is a team that has really struggled offensively. There's been so much drama and negativity surrounding the franchise and the atmosphere when they play at home. The players have been talking about it. Jason Kidd had to talk about it. Just the negativity surround. Now, look, Nico Harrison's gone. They've moved on from that. Anthony Davis will be returning sooner than later. Sounds like Kyrie is ahead of schedule. And now now that Nico's gone and they can start to move this thing forward, and getting a win like that last night against a team that plays really hard, that's a quality win, particularly the way they closed the game by getting baskets when they had to. It started to feel like a little bit maybe something is going to turn for Dallas. I'm not saying all of a sudden they're going to start winning every night without AD and Kyrie, but the environment seemed much more positive last night, and they were able to get it done. And so maybe now this could be a little bit of a stepping stone for Cooper Flagg as well, and getting more consistent offensively the way he played last night.
As much as I agree with you, have you been watching the college basketball at all and some of these prospects at the top of the board, of the big boards? Darren Peterson and AJ DeBanza. Have you seen these guys?
And Boozer, like what you're saying,
Boozer.
Sonny, you're saying Dallas should go in the tank, huh?
No, I'm not. All I'm saying is I don't watch a ton of college basketball, but this year there's so many big names that I'm kind of watching the highlights, because I want to see these guys. I love Peterson. His body control, he's so fluid. His skill level is so high. DeBanza is just an absolute beast. So sometimes I watch college and I'm not big in the draft, whatever. I'll get to it when I get to it. This is the earliest I've kind of been like, man, I want to see these guys' highlights every time they play.
Yeah, I'm watching more highlights than I am full games. With
same.
all the NBA I have to watch, I'll typically catch up with the college guys later on in the year, February, March, and pay a little bit more attention, because some of those guys, their season will end. You won't see them in the tournament. So I'll pay more attention to that later. But for me now, it's mostly highlight packages. And some of it is stuff that I already kind of watched over the summer as heading into their first year of college to see who these guys are.
Yeah.
There's no doubt, man. The top of this class is going to be special.
The highlight packages, though, because that's what I'm watching too. I'm not watching the games. I'm watching the highlights. But they are impressive highlight packages where I'm like, man, I am very intrigued. All right, James, let's get out of here. What do we have? One super chat? What do we got? Vinny 22 says, Hawks are the best team in the East. Say it with your chest, Vinny. It's not true, but you could say it with your chest. They are looking really good, though, this last little bit, Leg. So you know what? They deserve a little bit of shine.
Yeah, look, listen, all I got to say to that comment is I hear you, man. They're a nice team. To put an exclamation point on your statement doesn't make it true. I want you to know that.
Well, hey, man, they got a big win last night at Phoenix. You wouldn't have guessed at Phoenix is a big win, but nobody was beating Phoenix. So that's a big win.
It is, Adam, and I will say this real quick about Atlanta. I will say this. This is where this is not completely out of left field. The Knicks and the Cavs were the two teams that looked like clearly they were like the known quantities in the Eastern Conference. Man, you got injuries. Cleveland hasn't played as well as I thought. Detroit is at the top. So if you want to lay claim to Atlanta right now, man, they're absolutely in the mix. They got a lot of talent.
Yeah. They've won 5 in a row, man. And you're right, though. The Pistons, this might be their conference right now. They have a 2.5 game lead on the conference already. That's crazy. That's a bigger lead than Oklahoma City has on the Western Conference. So shout out the Detroit Pistons as well, the Atlanta Hawks. The East is wide open for whoever wants to take it. We hope you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you share it. Make sure you're subscribed. We're going to be back on Wednesday, always breaking down the actual games, talking actual hoops. Do you have a game you're calling this week, Blake?
I do. I'm actually traveling tomorrow to Dallas, so I will see the Mavericks up close on Wednesday night. The New York Knicks are in town to play the Dallas Mavericks.
Well, there you go, man. Everybody, make sure you're tuned in. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.
We all silly like the mayor.